Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and welcome you all to news reporting course. This course has a course code of GMC 225. This is lecture number 12 and today we are going to finalize the news values lecture series. This is the part 3 and on this very part we will end news values lectures. I'm Anwar Khan, lecturer journalism and mass communication department, Cohort University of Science and Technology. So the points that we will be elaborating and discussing in our today's session. So first of all, we will have a look at the summary of the part two. The concepts, the ideas that we discuss in the part two. We are going to have a look at the summary of the part two so that the students can remind the concepts, the ideas that we discuss in the part two, right? And then we are going to have a look at the remaining news values, right? And because in the beginning, in the introduction, I told you that this is the very last lecture in the news values lecture series, the part 3, and we are going to conclude our series on the part 3. So we have already discussed the definitions, the history of the news values, and some of the news values in the part 1, and then we also discussed them in the part 2. Now the remaining all remaining news values we are going to discuss in the part 3. So these are the points that we will be elaborating in our today's session. So summary of the part 2. So these are the concepts that we discussed in the part 2. So first of all, we came to know about the very meaning of the prominence news value and its role in the field of journalism. And then we also discuss magnitude or impact news values and its importance, association in the field of journalism and communication. And then we answered certain questions, or we can say some of the questions that may arise in the minds of the students, right? That usually we are asked in the class. So these were the concepts that we discussed in the part 2. So this is the list of the news value that I have already given you in the part 1 and then in the part 2, and some of the news values that we have already discussed, like the timeliness news value, prominence news value, and magnitude or impact news value. So these are the three news values, right, that we have already discussed in the part 1 and in the part 2. And the remaining five: proximity, conflict, unusualness, adventure, and negativity. So these are the five news values that we will be discussing in our today's session. And remember that I have already enforced this very idea that these are not some theoretical frameworks. These are not theoretical concepts. You will be applying these concepts in the field whenever you graduate from the university. So it is necessary for the student to pay attention to it, to understand it, and if you have any sort of problem, then come with your questions, ask me, right, and I will be there to answer it. So these news values are necessary for the students to understand, because when they will be given the responsibility of reporting, right, they will be a reporter in the field of journalism and communication. So at their time, when they are searching for the news, when they are searching for the stories, so these are the news values, these are the yardsticks that they will be using to get the news, right? So it is very necessary, very important for our students. So let's discuss the fourth news value, which is known as the proximity, and let's explore it, that what do we mean by it and how it is associated with the field of journalism. So proximity basically means the state of being near in space or time, right? So it means that the meaning of the proximity is a nearness, right? That something is happening near to you. So now it is interesting to know that how it is used in the field of journalism, right? So let's explore it, and you will come to know about it. So we say that different events, decisions, and issues that happen near to you, it will have your attention more as compared to other events that are taking place in other parts of the will other parts of the province or the country, right? So the events that are happening near to you, it will affect more, it will draw your attention more as compared to other incidents or activities that take place in other parts. Let me explain it with the help of the example, and then you will understand that how proximity is, what does it mean, and how is it used in the field of journalism. So look at these examples. The very first example, for example, if Cohort University of Science and Technology, it announces exams, right? So what will happen, that the students of the cohort university, they will be worried and they will try to prepare themselves for the exams, right? But if at the same time another university like University of Peshawar, Karak University, or D. Khan University, or I mean any other university, they announces their exams, that they will be conducting their exams on a particular date. So it will not affect the students of the cohort university because the exams will be taking place in other universities, right? So this is actually what we say, that if something is happening near to you, it will affect you and it will draw your attention more as compared to other activities. Take this example, for example, if an accident takes place near to your home, for example, god forbid, at something or an accident happens near to your home or in your area, then surely you will be getting information about it, that what has happened, where it has happened, and how many people are injured and who were the injuries, right? You will be thinking that if I mean, if any of your relative or friend, right, they are not in it, right? So you will be trying to get information about it. So it is the same thing, and the same accident, for example, if it takes place in other districts of the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa or in other parts of the country, surely you will not be interested into that. It doesn't mean that you will not be interested. It means that you will not be that much moved by that accident, as God forbid, if it happens near to your home in your area, so you will be affected by that very accident more as compared to other accidents that are taking place in other parts of the country. For example, take the example, I will give you the example of the load shedding protest that happens in your area. Then you will be going into the protest. You may or you may get information about the protest, that where it has taken place, or at least some of your friends or relatives, they may participate in the protest, right? So this, you will be more interested in this load shedding protest. And similarly, for example, girls college inauguration, for example, if it is taking place in cohort, so you will be more interested that a girls college inauguration has taken place or will be taking place in cohort, while in other, if the same thing, if college inauguration takes place in other parts of the country, so you will not be that much interested into that very college, right? So the proximity basically means nearness in space or time, right? That something happens near to you, near to your home, so it will affect you more, it will draw your attention more as compared to other activities that are taking place in other parts of the country. So let's have a look at the front page of the Daily Arch newspaper, and it will help you more to develop your understanding about the proximity news value. And let's have a look of this news story. It says that 15 people have died and 35 people have injured in a road accident. And it's very sad, very unfortunate that we have lost 15 people and 35 others are injured, right? So what happened, that I will be sad about this very story because this story has been given on the very front of the newspaper, and it means that this story is important. So what happened, that the bus was going from Lahore to Mardan. So if the dead or the injured, they belong to Mardan or Lahore, so those people, the people of Lahore, particular people, and similarly of Mardan, they will be more interested to know about the injured or the dead people, about the names of the injured or the dead, right? Because they may think that let's suppose, for example, that your relative or friends might be coming in that very bus, so they will be going to have information about that very bus, right? So, and similarly, the people of Kohat or Peshawar or other districts of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, like Lekki, like Tonk, they will not be very much moved by this very story. Although they will say, they will that this is a very unfortunate incident that has taken place, and it should be avoided. Such accidents should be avoided, right? but the people of Mardan or the Lahore, they will be more interested into it. So this is actually the proximity news value that tells you, that attract your attention more into the news story. So, what are the types of the proximity? It is said that the scholars have made different types of the proximity, but let's discuss two types of the proximity. One is called geographic proximity, and the next one is called psychological proximity. So, these are the two types of proximity. As I told you that there are numerous other types of proximity, but we are going to have a look at these two types of the proximity. So, geographic proximity, what does it mean? Let's discuss it and let's explore it. Geographic proximity means when something happens near to the audience in area wise, right? So, the students must keep it in mind that geographic proximity is something that happens near to the audience in area wise. It means in their area or in their surrounding, if something is taking place, so the audiences or the people will be more interested about it, right? And I can give you the example of the sports complex inauguration. If it is taking place in Kohad, so the people of Kohad, they will be very much excited and they would like to know where this sports complex is building, and how much time it will take, and what sort of activities there will be in the sports complex, right? And similar other questions, it will come in the mind of the cohort people, right? But this inauguration will not affect other districts of the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa or other parts of the country, because this very inauguration or the sports complex is going to be built in Kohat. Yes, the people other people of other districts, they will say that it is a good decision, a very healthy decision taken by the government. It is something else, but they will not be moved very much by this very decision, because this again, the sports complex will be built in Kohat. So what does it mean? It means very simply that if something happens near to the audience, it will be a bigger news and it will attract the attention of the audience, as we have already discussed in the previous slides when I was giving the example of the load shedding protest or girls college inauguration. So something happening near to the audience, it will attract their attention more as compared to other activities. So let's have a look at the front page of the Dawn newspaper, and we can see to the very left that different news related to different areas that are given. We have the national news, we have the, again, national news, business news, international news, we have the sports news, and this is very interesting. We also have news from the Karachi, and then from Islamabad, then from Lahore, and then we have from Peshawar. So it is very natural for me, who live in the Peshawar, to read news of Peshawar first. I would like to know that what is happening or what has happened in my city, in my province. It is very natural to know about, to know first of all about your own area, and then I will see that what has taken place in other cities or other provinces of the Pakistan, for example, Lahore, Islamabad, or Karachi, right? But first of all, for me, it will be very natural to know about my own, my own city or my own province, right? So this is basically, it will come in the geographic proximity. So second type of the proximity is known as a psychological proximity. Let's have a look at it. Let's explore it, that what does it mean and how it differs geographic proximity. So psychological proximity means when something happens near or far away from the audiences, but the audiences are attached with the event emotionally or mentally. So it will come in the category of the psychological proximity. I hope that it is easy for you people and to understand it. But let me explain it again for you people. If something happens near to the audiences, or it may happen very far away from the audiences, it may happen in other parts of the country, right? But again, the audiences, they will love to read the information, they would love to watch the videos, because they are attached with those very events emotionally. So it will come in the category of the psychological proximity. Let me explain it with the help of the example, and after that I hope that you will be able to understand it. So here are the examples. Take the example of the stories of the Kashmir or Palestine or other Muslim countries, right? So all these stories, Kashmir, Palestine, they will come in the psychological proximity. They do not come in the geographic proximity because we are talking beyond the limits of the boundary. Over here, we are not talking about about the limits of the boundary. We are not talking about that. We are talking about these issues, about these events, because we are attached with it emotionally. If something is happening in Palestine, then will surely we are attached with it, and we pray that there is peace and prosperity in the Palestine, right? And similarly, we also pray that there is good happenings in the Kashmir. Why? Because these are the Muslim countries, and we are attached with them emotionally. And similarly, in other Muslim countries, I mean, if it is Turkey or if it is Bangladesh or any part of the country, right, the Muslim country, so we are attached with them psychologically. And let's have another example. For example, an Egyptian female or Malaysian female or any other female who is Muslim and who has won a gold medal, then we would love to read that very story. We would love to watch that very video because the reason is that she is a Muslim female, and we would love to read that very story. Although she is not a Pakistani, even then we will try to read that very story. The reason is we are attached with it psychologically, right? So all such information will come in the psychological proximity. So let me give you some more examples about the psychological proximity, and I hope with it you will improve your understanding more about it. So this video story has been taken from the dawn.com, and it says that Biden inducts third Pakistani American into his team, right? So it means that third Pakistani has grabbed another key position in the Joe Biden political team, and that was a splendid news for me when it came, and I read it on the dawn.com, right? And because I thought that Pakistanis, they are now able to grab key positions, political positions in foreign countries, where they can assist their country, their own country. They may help them in different decisions when they are taking place in foreign countries, right? So this news is important, and important in the sense that it has been picked up by dawn.com, because they also feel that this news is important, right? And for all Pakistanis, that was a splendid news, and the reason is that it will come in the psychological proximity. Why? Because we are attached with this gentleman, that he is a Pakistani. Although he is not living in Pakistan, he is living in US, and he carries out his political future in US, but we are attached with him, right? There are numerous other Pakistani Americans who are living in America, right? And we are attached with all of them. But with this gentleman, he is representing our country, and we are proud of him, right? So it will come in the psychological proximity. Let me give you another example from the psychological proximity, and let me also check your understanding whether you understood or not. So, uh, on this page of the Dawn sports page, several news are there. This one is the first one. This one is the PSL news, and this one is from the soccer. This one is from, I think, from the cricket, and this one is from the IPL. So, what do you think? The people of Pakistan, the audience in Pakistan will be interested in which of the news? What do you think? Well, surely they will be interested to know about the future of the PSL. What is PCB going to do with the PSL? What they are going to decide about the matches of the PSL, right? So the Pakistani fan, they will be more interested in the about the PSL fate, right? That what decision the PCB is going to take. We will not be interested in the soccer news. We will not be interested more into this very news. Yes, we will be interested in the IPL. That IPL, I mean, suspended due to COVID-19, right? That different players, that will what happened with them, that they were diagnosed with this COVID-19, right? So just because of that, they suspended the IPL matches. So this very news will come in the psychological proximity. It will not come in the geographic proximity, but we will be more interested into PSL matches. And the second news that we will be interested more in is the IPL. So another news value is in the form of the conflict. Let's have a look at it. That what does it mean? So it says that conflicts dates from the beginning of the human history. I mean that there has been conflict from the beginning of the human history, right? And in future, right, it will exist because according to different scholars, they say that as long as humans live on this face of the earth, this conflict will be there in one way the other way, right? So you cannot remove conflict from it because humans are there and they have their own interests, they have their own values, right? So there will be conflicts as long as humans live on the face of the earth. And they say that conflicts arise, how they arise, because their needs, values, or ideas that are seen to be different, and there is no means to reconcile the dispute. So there are different groups, right, and they have their own values, their own ideas, and they say, right, or they want to implement their values or ideas over others, and there is no we can say that means, or there are no efforts to reconcile the dispute. So as a result, what will happen, that it will result in the conflicts. And it is said that these conflicts can lead to fights or even wars, because we have already seen some ugly wars like World War One, like World War Two, and we cannot suffer another war, right? And this conflict, then the role of the propaganda comes there. Different organizations, different people use different means for the propaganda for their own hidden agenda, right? So this conflict, we can say that another news value, and it plays important role in deciding and selecting the news. And according to scholars, they say that if you are discussing it, conflict, I mean conflict news value, if you are discussing it as a separate news value entity, it is something else. But some of the scholars include conflict in negativity, right, under the umbrella of the negativity, while other scholars say that it's okay if you discuss conflict as a separate news value. Now let's discuss that why we report conflict. What is the reason? So the reason is that conflict adds excitement to a news story, and it arouses the interest and curiosity of the audience. So these are the two elements that combine, and we report conflict in our news stories, right? Because with both these components, we get greater audience because they start reading and watching our media, and then as a result, slowly and gradually, we get greater control of the audience, right? And this is what the new phenomenon of the 21st century is, and this is what is a very practical phenomenon in the 21st century, that the greater the audience with a media organization, the greater the role and the importance of that media will be. And this is I mean, it's very clear in the 21st century. I can give you the example of the Facebook, I can give you the example of the Twitter and other media organizations, that with whom, if greater audience are attached with, so that very media will be popular among the audience, and that very media will be approached by different I mean organizations, by political figures, for promoting their opinion, for promoting their agenda. So look at this example, and this example has been taken from the BBC News, and it says that India's surgical strikes in Kashmir, truth or illusion. So it means that the surgical strike story, it is in the form of the conflict, and it arouses the interest of the audience. It arouses the curiosity of the audience, and the audience, they want to read it, they want to know more about it. So that is the reason that the BBC News has filed a story on it. So in order to present the conclusion, it means that when there is conflict, right, in persons, in groups, in organizations, in countries, so the responsibility of the journalist or reporter will be to record all information about that conflict and give it to the audience, because audiences, they want to know and read about those conflicts. Another news value is in the form of the unusualness, and this unusualness, Gulting and Rouge has used the term unexpectedness, and sometimes we also find another word which is called bizarre. So, bizarre, unexpectedness, or unusualness, they are the same terms. They mean the same thing, and you people should not be confused in these words and terminologies. And it means that events that are out of ordinary, unexpected, or rare are more newsworthy than routine activities. So it means that routine activities, press conferences, load shedding protests, or inaugurations, etc., they are newsworthy events. But what happened that all those events that are unexpected or rare, I mean, they do not happen normally in our society. So they are more newsworthy than the routine events, and it will be upon the reporters and journalists to cover those news and information and give it to the audience, right? So it is necessary for our students to understand it that what unusualness is another news value and very important one, and whatever they see in their society as unusual, which is not happening in the society on routine activities, they are going to cover it and give it to the audience. In the coming slide, I'm going you to give you the example, and with that you will understand its meaning. So let me give you an example of the unusualness, and this is a classic one. A classic one in the sense that those people who are not from the field of communication or journalism, they even know it as well. And this example says that a dog bites a man and man bites a dog, right? So if a dog bites a man, it is no news. And if a man bites a dog, it is a news. Why it is a news? Because it comes in the category of the unusualness. And over here, we ought to discuss what does it mean. So, a dog is to bite people, right? It is what a dog does, right? So it will not be a news for us. But what happens that if a man bites a dog, then it will be a news for us, and it will be the responsibility of the journalist to cover it. By men biting a dog does not mean that men literally will go and catch a dog and will bite it. No, it does not mean. By this, it means that if something unusual happens, if something bizarre happens, then the responsibility of the journalist will be to cover it, right? So you people must keep it in mind that this one, that man bites a dog, it doesn't mean that the man will be searching for the dog and after catching the dog he will bite it, right? He simply, by this, it simply means that something unusual happens out of the ordinary, though it will be the responsibility of the journalist to cover it. So for you people who are the students of journalism, the students of communication, remember it that routine activities, when it is taking place, then it will be covered to a certain extent. For example, if two teams they are playing with each other and a toss is thrown, then we cover it and it is a news for us. But it will be a bigger news if toss is thrown and one team says that we are not interested to play game, we are not interested to play match. It will be a bigger news than the first one when toss is thrown and both of them they are willing to play, right? So they are looking for the unusual activities or events that take place in their society. For example, we can say that a 7-year-old kid who is a karate master, well, that will be a surprising and interesting news for me. And first of all, it will be interesting for me. And everyone, every audience would love to watch that how a 7 years old kid is a karate master, right? It will be interesting. Let's suppose another example can be in the form that a person who can write with his two hands at the same time, right? I'm not giving you the example of the three idiots in which the principal he can write from with right and left hand. Well, because that is a maid, and if we have such a person who can write with his right and left, so this is out of routine, because in our everyday life we find people who can write either with their right or with their left hand. I hope that you understood this very example. Another news value is called negativity, and according to Galtung and Rouge, they say that negative news is rarer and less predictable, and that is the reason that it attracts the audience on large scale, because it attracts the interests of the audiences, and that is the reason that large audiences are interested in that very news. Fine. And this negativity, it is in the form of the damage, injury, deaths, deviance, corruption, negligence, and conflict. Right? These are some of the examples of the negativity. So, what happened that if they see our students see any negativity in the society, so it will be their responsibility to cover it and give the information to the society, sorry, to the audience. But remember that they have to be very much careful. This negativity does not mean that if something that they are free to cover everything. No, it doesn't mean so. For example, fights between two brothers, it is not their responsibility to interfere into personal matters, like, or the family matters, right? That they will be going and knocking at the door and getting information that why two brothers fought with each other. No, it will be a violation of the privacy. Our students must be very much careful about it. And how you will know that which news to cover and which news not to cover? So surely it is with experience, it is with the passage of time that you will come to know that which news you are going to cover it, right? So take the example of the corruption. Take the example, for example, when a certain responsibility is given to, we can say, to certain people, government officers or government employees, and they fail to carry out that very activity or task in the deadline. Fine. So that is negativity, that they could not carry out the plan in the deadline. So it is a negativity, and a story can be filed upon it. Fine. So our students must be careful about the violation of the privacy, because if they make violation of the privacy, then the consequences will be dangerous. So it doesn't mean that negativity is a news value only and all negative news we are going to cover. No, it is wrong. Positivity is also a news value, and we are going to cover positive news as well. For example, sports news, we also have science news, also have development news, inauguration news, college inauguration news, a positive decision taken by the government, by the by a cabinet, etc., etc. So all of them, they are positive news, and we are going to cover those things. But yes, what happens that if for example, I can give you the example of the sports match, sports news, that if Pakistan play well and they perform well, surely they will win, and then there will be positive news about it. But if in the cricket match they do not perform well, they drop catches, they do not bowl well, and there is misfielding, so surely it is negative. Negativity is there, and we are going to say that we are going to cover that news with all these negativities, and the sports experts will say that such mistakes have been made by the Pakistani players, right? So negative news and positive news, they are both, and they work at the same time. And the last news value is adventure, and this adventure is an exciting experience and which requires courage, but at the same time it is risky as well. And it may include physical activities like traveling, exploring, sky diving, mountain climbing, etc., etc. And this adventure basically, it arouses the interest of the audience again, as we have already discussed in the previous slides. And audiences, they are interested to know about these such news which are associated with adventure. So let's have examples of the adventure, and look at the first picture. That although he will be a professional cyclist, but if a common person is doing it, so it will come in the category of the adventure, and people will be interested to see that how that person performs that trick. And look at this gentleman who is enjoying his life, and this is an adventure for him. Look at these people, surely an adventure, and our audience then likes to watch the video or to read more about it. That who are these people, and on what specific day they are having this dive, right? And this science, different missions which are sent to the space for new discoveries, will the audiences they want to know about it. But remember that it is risky as well. I mean, any of the adventure, it may cost you your life. And this adventurism, it requires courage, but at the same time, it is risky as well. And I can give you the example of the Ali Satpara, and whom we lost on the K2. And I hope that several days his news were coming in the television, in the newspaper, and the Pakistanis they were praying for him to return back. And a song has been made. I think several songs would have been made on him, and we lost him. So this adventurism can be dangerous sometimes, right? But they make news, and the reason is that it arouses the interest of the audiences. So we have come to the end of the part 3 of the news values. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next lecture. Till that, stay home, stay safe. Allah Hafiz.